Good morning. This is Dr. Charli, the book mama.
And this is Stephanie Palmer, the grammar queen.
And we're here for some writer's therapy. Do you have tips for aspiring authors today?
We do have some tips, some awesome tips.
Okay, so what kind of book are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about self-help books.
Self-help books. Okay, I might need some help.
I'm here for you. I'm here to help you talk about self-help.
What's your favorite self-help book?
I am going to say it's The 21-Day Miracle by Ed Rush. I just recently read it, and it is absolutely amazing. Of course, I do have some other contenders on the list, but that is number one for sure.
You know what my first self-help book was?
What?
It was actually, I don't know, a spiritual book. It was by Stormy O'Mardian, The Power of a Praying Wife.
I love that book.
Oh, that book messed me up.
Yeah.
It messed me up. It made me completely revisit my whole perspective of being a wife and how to pray for my husband. And there are, like, even today, there are quotes out of there. Like, do you ever read a self-help book and you find a quote that really resonates with you? Okay, so what can you think of one?
Not off the top of my head. See,
okay,
look,
so
she always does this. She always puts me on the spot.
I'm just flying, y'all. I'm just like, I'm just flying. Okay, but the Stormy O'Mardian book, the one thing, and I bet I read that 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. And you still remember a quote from it?
I do.
Wow.
I do. It was, how you've changed since I've changed.
That's good.
I know.
Good.
Oh,
wow.
What would Darren say? Do I have a praying church?
Right.
Can I have a praying church? Okay. So I knew we were going to talk about self-help books, so I did some research.
Okay.
Because I love research.
Yes.
Okay. So do you know what the first self-help book was?
No. Why don't you tell me?
It was called Self-Help.
How original.
It really was. It was called Self-Help, and it was by a man named Samuel Smiles. Now, I have to tell you, the stinker side of me kind of wonders if he changed his name to Smiles after he self-helped himself, or if was he happy so he renamed himself Samuel Smiles, or was he born Samuel Smiles so he thought he would help other people smile? I don't know. Okay, that's completely corny, but I really wonder that. So it was written in 1859.
Wow. That was a long
It really was. Okay, so like that was pre-Civil War. So, because I was curious, like we talk about self-help books all the time, but where do they actually come from? So Samuel Smiles actually wrote a book called Self-Help. And it started out kind of controversial because people thought that he was saying you should help yourself. Like it was a greedy, self-preserving kind of perspective. But then once they realized that it wasn't about that, that was actually about trying to improve yourself and make great choices. And his target audience was adolescents. It was youth. Yeah. And so once people realized that it wasn't self-serving, that he was actually trying to encourage people, then it actually became a bestseller, and it was translated into multiple foreign languages.
Wow.
In Europe, European languages, even Deutsch. I thought that was really impressive, in Austrian.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I will ever have a book translated into Austrian. Maybe yours will be.
Oh, maybe so. Maybe so.
So anyway, so that's where self-help books came from. And technically, according to the internet, the modern term is self-improvement instead of self-help. I like help.
Yeah, I do too.
I live by the KISS method.
Right. Yeah. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. Okay.
Yes.
So we really didn't want to talk to you about self-help books.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to dive into some do's and don'ts, because many authors have that drive that they want to help people who've had similar problems or obstacles in their business or their life or whatever that they have. And so they're like, I figured it out. This is how I got through my mess. And so I want to help somebody else do the same, which is really pretty admirable.
It is. I agree.
Right. But there are some do's and there are some don'ts.
Yes.
So the first thing I want to talk about is being specific.
Okay.
So what do you do like to be specific?
There needs to be a target area in your life. So I think when I think of self-help and I think of the do's in that aspect is you need to make sure that you are streamlining what it is that you are trying to help someone accomplish or overcome instead of being all over the place.
Yeah, that's really important. So you've got to, if you're talking about like working out, like sometimes we have books that we edit that are about fitness and they're about building up and getting tough and, you know, men and women alike, like there, and y'all can tell that I probably am not that person. I'm like the marshmallow in the club. So
I'm right there with you.
All right. I would rather talk about flowers in my garden, not about how much weight I lifted yesterday. So in that process, if you're talking about working out and you're talking about the number of reps that you're going to do, or the number of weight that you're going to lift, the amount of weight that you're going to lift, or, you know, your program and your discipline that's involved in that. Let's say that you believe that organic food is good for building muscle, resiliency in your muscle. You might want to mention that in a sentence or two if you're talking about diet, but that's it. This is not a book about organic food. It's a book about implementing a workout system or a workout plan or something like that. Does that make sense?
It does.
Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that.
She's so smart like that. Okay. But Stephanie's right. You don't, okay, this is your don't. So we said your do is be specific, but your don't is don't get too broad. Because if you get to, so let's say that you're really proud of yourself. You're working out and you just want to talk about how happy you are. And you want to talk about reaching goals is really important. And you want to talk about, you know, reaching your dreams. That's great. And you can summarize those things, but that's not a whole chapter. That's not marketable. Anybody can say they're happy, and anybody can say, you know, that I've got 3 basic steps to reach your dreams. But then if you don't give the steps and you don't give instructions on how to reach those goals, then it's really not, nobody's going to want to read it.
Right.
Yeah. So another set of do's and don'ts, credentials.
Should you or should you not include them?
I think you should.
I think you should too.
Yeah. So if I wrote a workout book, like a serious workout book, and I put my picture on the front, I seriously doubt anybody would buy it. Okay. It's not that I'm against it. It's just not my best asset. This morning in the office, I was going, does anybody want 4 o'clock seats? I have seats. I really was, wasn't I?
Right.
I mean, it's just like, that's just not my area. And so, you do need to have credentials, and that's especially if you have gone through a process and you've gotten good at it. Like you kind of figured out how to whittle out what doesn't matter and how to cut back and do this different stuff, in a certain way. Maybe there's a certain formula in how to do something. So yeah, you really need to state your credentials. So what's an example?
And I'm gonna time out on that. Even with credentials. So I do not want to discredit or sway away from the education arena. Yes, include those, but also let's take, for example, a mom book. That is a credential. You know what? Because we are never going to be experts at being a mom. However, there are plenty of self-help books out there for moms. So a credential is not just a degree. It's not just your your education. It is your expertise in what you have accomplished, kind of like what Charli was sharing. So I do not want to discredit college degrees, but I also don't
Thank
want
you very
to,
much.
but I also don't want to limit it just to those type of credentials.
Right.
Because being a wife, you know what? I have credentials in that. Like, I mean, for
Right.
real, for real.
We rank.
Like,
We've got 4
like
kids
that's-
apiece.
yeah,
We
yeah.
rank. We have credit.
Yeah, there you go.
We have credit in the wisdom and
Yes.
the we've screwed up department.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Prayer department too.
The prayer department. That's a good one. Okay. So your credentials really are what you've done in the area of your book, the topic of your book.
Yes.
So let's talk about gardening a minute, because I really love gardening.
I have no credentials.
Okay. So that's why you would want to read my book.
Right.
Because did I show you a picture of my 4 o'clocks last week?
Yes, and they were really tall. I remember you said they were really tall.
I'm so excited, y'all. My 4 o'clocks are taller than me now. And if you just Google it, okay? It's a bush, it's a flower. But they're really pretty, and they're now taller than me, and that's pretty impressive, actually. I'm kind of impressed with myself. but I've done that, and I kind of know the little tricks that I've done to make them that successful. And so I could write that in a book. I could talk about the things I did to make my 4 o'clock plants taller than me, which, guys, I'm 5'8". So, my 4 o'clock plants are almost 6 feet tall. So, I can say 2 years ago, I planted 4 o'clock seeds, and this is the kind of soil that I put them in, because I make my own compost. I'm kind of a dirt nerd.
Green thumb.
Dirt nerd.
Green thumb.
Okay, so I have my own compost, and I only use certain fertilizers, and I cut them back every winter, and I keep I water them regularly, a certain way, especially in early spring and things like that. So I try to make sure that I do certain things. So that is a credential. Has nothing to do with my degrees. It has to do with my experience and the product of my experience. So that is a credential. And that's the kind of thing that readers are looking for. They want proof in the pudding.
Yes.
Why is proof always in the pudding?
I have no idea.
It makes me hungry. Okay. So let's talk about another level of do's and don'ts. Structure. That's one of Stephanie's favorites. Structure.
Yes.
Talk to us about structure.
Structure. Are you referring to the structure of each chapter? What are we talking about?
Well, let's start broad. Structure of the book.
Structure of the book.
Self-help book.
So I'm really big on, of course, and most people are or may not know this. The title of the book needs to match the chapters that are within the title, so that it connects the reader from the chapter to the book title. It all needs to blend, and if not, you need to at least be able to describe within the first 2 to 3 paragraphs of each chapter what that looks like, so that you keep the reader following what message you were conveying.
Right. So your title can't be one thing and then you kind of go with a metaphor throughout the whole thing. You can't have balloons on the front of your book and then talk about, allude to race cars in every chapter title.
Yeah, that wouldn't
They
go.
just don't go together.
That wouldn't go.
I mean, you might have balloons at a race car, like at NASCAR, but nobody's really going to get that.
There needs to be a connection.
Right. But then you also have structure within, like the progression of your book.
Yes.
Remember, we were talking about credentials. Well, credentials, you want to present those. You want to say that I could not make anything grow at all. And then I learned through trial and error that you use this kind of soil and this kind of sunlight, and you go through this process and you water this often. And now I have plants that are 6 feet tall.
Yes.
Okay. So that's like an introduction, and present your credentials. So you kind of start out that way. Mm-hmm. So what's another topic? Like momming.
Yeah. We can talk about
We started out with no babies.
Yeah.
And then we got 4 babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how you changed, like how you improved. Because Stephanie's a good mom, y'all. She's a very good mom.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, that'll cost you $50.
I know, right? Yeah.
I'm teasing. She really is. She's a great mom. And I watch her interact with her kids all the time. And I'm like, gosh, I wish I'd been that smart when I had my kids were little. Okay, so now I just ask for forgiveness a lot.
But I have not always been this way.
So there
Spoiler
would be
alert.
your credentials.
Yes.
Right? So you go in and you say, as a mom, I have made a gazillion mistakes.
Yes.
And after trial and error, so I tried Dr. So-and-so's method, and I tried this Dr. So-and-so's method, and then I listened to this preacher, and he said to do it this way. And then I went back to Mary, the mother of Jesus, to see if she had any tips. And then and then I figured out the Charli Caraway way or the Stephanie Palmer way. And who knows, Stephanie Palmer may be the next momming guru, and she might be on Oprah. And just remember me.
I will.
If you go on
I will
Oprah,
so remember you. I will shout out.
I will be your
All right.
personal
Yes.
administrative assistant.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So, but that's a credential, and you present that in your
Yes.
structure. You present that early so that people go, okay, so she was a screwball and now she's recovered and she's writing a book about it. So maybe there's hope for me. And then the chapters after that would follow in sync. So you might talk about potty training, and then you might talk about talking back. And then you might talk about, so one of the things that you and Darren do that I love is, what is that thing y'all do at dinner every night?
Highs and lows.
Highs and lows. Okay, so what's highs and lows?
Highs and lows are what we talk about each day. So we go around the table, and each child and even the parent, we discuss what our highs were and what our lows are for the day. So then we're able to see what areas we need to work on, and then even have a discussion about it. So if someone says that their low was they didn't get to play on the video game, or they whatever that low is, we challenge them to see how we can even improve that low. But it just opens dialogue and communication with the family, so that we're able to know where each person is, and then of course to see their perspective of what they deem as high and low.
Can you sit close? Maybe I can get that smart.
Rub off on you.
Y'all, I'm lost. My kids are all adults now. I got one left in school. The rest are all adults. They're on their own. They're going to have to figure this out for themselves. Okay. So, but that's that could be one of your chapters after you've established your credentials.
Yes.
After you've said, hey, I've been through it. I survived. This is how I did it. Okay. So sometimes in Clear Progression, we talk about steps. So there might be, 5 steps to doing this in your life, or 5 steps to improving the marketing, in your life. Or maybe it's a book about marketing on social media, which would be really specific. Mm-hmm. And somebody could talk about how their experience in learning how to use social media and how it's been successful. So that might involve numbers and statistics. And then you would move into the actual discussion of social media, but you might give steps. So step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. You might talk about a process. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. So I'm trying to think of a process.
I'm going to leave that one to you.
A process. How about, getting ready for an interview?
Yeah, that's
getting ready for a job interview. There's a process to that. It doesn't, you don't just show up.
Right.
And you don't just show up slouchy.
Yeah.
And you don't show up with your gangster on and,
I'm going to leave that alone.
You don't.
I'm going to touch it.
There's a certain way to enter into a potential employment situation. And so there's a process to that. Yes. And if somebody wanted to write a book on that, there would be a process that they would present. Okay. And sometimes we've talked about this a little bit already, but I want to specifically say you have to acknowledge problems.
Yes.
Yeah. I
definitely.
think that's the first step.
Right. Acknowledging
acknowledging you have a problem. Yeah. There should be like a AA, maybe there's like an AA 2.0 for like Authors Anonymous.
There you go. Hey, that's a thing. Y'all stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Oh, we might need to write a book on that. Authors Anonymous. And because there are some people who, They need some stats. And we've been there. We've been those people. And so that's how we know. And so, but acknowledging that there's a problem. So it might be a problem in your parenting. It might be a problem in your garden. It might be a problem with your business. It might be a problem in your church. It might be a problem in your community. But you got to acknowledge that you have a problem. Then you can go into how to help in that problem. Okay. So the last one is developing plans.
Yes.
Nobody wants a book where you acknowledge a problem and you say, I had this problem and I figured it out and now I'm happy. And then you don't tell them how to get happy as well.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I probably want to throw that book across the room.
Yeah, me too. Me too, for sure.
I so would, y'all. I'd be like, what the heck? And just throw it across the room. All right. So with structure, there's one huge don't. And that's like free form. Like, don't be all over the place. If it's a self-help book, that's because people want help. Right. And if you have ever, okay, this is writer's
and we're
therapy.
Here to help you.
We are therapists. And so I just want you to understand, baby. Okay, that's how I'll talk to you. Darling, sugar, honey, plum. Okay. Y'all, I call my daughter Sugar Bean. That is her nickname.
I call her that too when she calls. I know the voice, the ringtone.
My daughter is Sugar Bean. I am as Southern as they come. All right, but here's your writer's therapist talking right now. What was I talking about? I got all wrapped up in that. Oh, free form.
Yes.
Okay. You can't just go off and just start talking. You can't just, it's not free form poetry. If you are writing a self-help book, the person who picks it up needs help. There's something about your book description on the back of the book or your title or something that says, oh, I could really use this. And they're probably not going to the bookstore to go, oh, I have a problem today. I would love to find a resolution to my personal issues. Y'all, if they are that sweet about it, they have passive aggressive issues and they need a therapist, a real live trained therapist. Okay. Because when I want help, I'm not that nice. I'm like, I want help. I want it now. Like,
this isn't working anymore.
Give me Jesus. Give me a process. Give me something.
Yes.
Get me from this point A to a point B because I'm done with A. And so I want help. So I want steps. I want a plan. I want, right? I mean, are you the same way?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're process girls. We're like, okay, this is the problem. Now how are we going to fix it? We're systems. We talk about systems all the time. All the time. We're always trying to improve what we do.
Yes.
Okay, so don't just go into this all loosey-goosey. You know, don't be Mother Goose. Don't loosey-goosey right when you're doing a self-help book. People want you to get to the point, help them solve an issue, the end. Hope you get to celebrate your successes. That's what they really want.
Yes.
Do you have any other thoughts on that?
I do. I have several other thoughts. I knew
she would.
Yes. Okay, so someone once told me that facts tell, stories sell. You want to make sure when you are doing
That's good. Say it again, girl.
Facts tell, stories sell. When you are writing your self-help book, you want to include self. You want to include some of your stories in it. It doesn't need to be all about you, but you do want to weave in the stories that resonate with the reader, that will help them process and break down the steps that you used whenever you were going through whatever situation you were going through. So make sure to do that.
That's good.
And then I also want to include with the outline and everything else. Of course, we always go back to outline, but guess what you get to do with self-help books? You can actually use part of your outline as subtitles.
Oh, that's good too.
That way you are allowing your reader will be able to follow. You will be able to guide them with the subtitles. Now, you want to make sure that those subtitles connect with the chapter title. So if you're talking about parenting, you need to make sure that it aligns with that. And of course, it can be catchy. You want to be clever, not too clever, because you do not want the reader puzzled as they're reading and not able to figure out what it is that you're talking about. So I definitely want to make sure that you can use that. And then also application. Application is key. You want to be able to give application, and the sky is the limit when it comes to the layout. You can have an interactive book. I will tell you, the best books are the ones that have, for me, now I'm just giving that clause, the best books for me are the ones that are interactive, that ask me questions, that challenge me. And that is one of the greatest things about self-help books is you can challenge the reader. Do not write a self-help book and not challenge the reader, because then it defeats the entire purpose. Yes, provoke them. Have them to assess themselves, because that's where the real work is going to come in. You can write a book all day long. It can be a phenomenal book, but the self-help is the application behind it. So like I was telling her, 21 Day Miracle by Ed Rush. He is phenomenal. He's amazing. But if I don't implement anything that he said in that book, all it is an amazing book.
Kind of sounds
like church.
She would read that book for a little bit every morning, and I would come into the office. She'd be like, yes, get up in my business.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
And I was like, are you having a religious experience?
Close, very close.
So that's the sign of a really great read. That's when you're provoked and you want to change. And so have you done anything in that book yet?
Let me tell you, I have not. So I read it, and I'm going back in to read it again after I've got to get it from Darren. I have to get it back from him because he let me borrow it. We purchased it together, and he let me borrow it, and now he wanted it back. So now I've got to go and borrow it again when he's not looking.
It makes me warm and fuzzy inside when she throws him under the bus on social media for millions to see. It's just great amusement for me. I can go home and say, it's been a full day. It's been a great day. Okay.
It just has a little bit of tire marks on it.
So can we, that kind of inspired me.
Uh-oh. Okay. Inspiration. I don't know.
Inspired me.
Okay. Let's see.
All right. So I don't know. Let's just off the top of our head, let's talk about that, because I've read self-help books that I didn't implement.
Uh-oh.
They were great. They were good. I didn't do anything in them. So why is that?
Why is it that we don't implement it? Or why is it important to implement it?
We're writer therapists. We're supposed to know the answers to that. But in all honesty, don't we all read books that are, quote unquote, they fall into that category, self-improvement, self-help. Yes. And then we're like, like it's good. It has good points. Some of it's really original, but then I don't do anything about it. So why do we not do that? Is it the writer? Is it the writing? Or is it the reader?
It's in this case, because the writer is absolutely phenomenal. So, I mean, book plug, if you have not read 21 Day Miracle by Ed Rush, go get that book. It is amazing. So no, I think it falls back on the reader in this case. However, in some scenarios, it could be the writer, depending on the message they are conveying. So if it's poorly written, or their message is not clearly articulated throughout the book, then it could be.
Can I confess something to you?
Confession and inspiration.
I baited you.
You baited me.
I did. Okay. You took that hook, line,
she does
and sinker.
This every time.
Well, it's just you leave yourself open like that, and
thanks, thank you. Do y'all see this? Do you see?
So I really baited you for the purpose of. It doesn't necessarily always reflect on the author, but it goes back to your point. So I may have baited you, but it was to reiterate your brilliant point.
Wait, say that again.
Your brilliant point.
Words of affirmation, love language.
Yes. All right. And that is that the application is important.
Yes.
You can provide all the steps in the world, but if you don't go back and have you ever done something and you try to implement it and you're like, okay, something didn't go right. Over the pandemic, my son decided that he was going to be a baker, which is probably why none of the self-help books on getting healthy and stuff to me any good.
They haven't resonated yet.
Right. They haven't really
finished the cherry pie.
But y'all, he can make some cherry pie. Like I'm like, son, this is just so special. It's that good. Homemade crust made with real butter. I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to leave now to go get food. But so, but there were a couple of times he also did sourdough bread. And so he learned through a process, because that sourdough bread, the first time he made a starter, it was kind of like, and then the next time it was more successful, but then he would start kneading the dough and he wouldn't do it right. So it was a process.
Right.
So, but if he had had a book about how to make sourdough bread successfully, then I would have wanted him to say, okay, I did this, and I cut this corner, or I didn't do it exactly. I cut out this step, and this is what happened. So I had to go back and revisit the process and then continue.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? And he did really well with that because I got a lot of pies and a lot of bread. But at the same time, you had some pie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I shared. So, but the beautiful part of that is that when we're not implementing something, we need to make sure as writers and us as editors that that's prevented as much as possible. The reader cannot take responsibility for the author cannot take responsibility for the reader's shortcomings.
That's good.
Well, I'm a writer's therapist.
Yes. Credential.
These poor people are probably going to need real therapy after us. But that's what I'm saying. It's really not always on the author, but it is on the author to make sure that the application is there, like you talked about, and that we can really give the reader everything we possibly can to walk them through a process of improvement so that they have options. I've noticed at the end of many books, they give contact information. Like if you have questions or you struggle through this process or you need further help, you can contact me through this method. And that's really helpful as well.
Yes.
Because that leaves that window of opportunity open. So I know that Darren does that in his books. So that way people can contact him and blow up his phone, and then they eventually end up on one of these Facebook Lives, and Darren gets thrown under the bus, and it's really a fascinating process. So, okay. So do you have any closing thoughts?
I do have one closing thought for anyone who is interested in writing a self-help book, because I think they are phenomenal, because I do believe that everyone not only has a story, but they have something to share to help someone from experiencing what they've went through. Whether it be breakup or whatever it looks like, parenting, anything that that you have lived through and that you have overcome, you have the capabilities within yourself to be able to share those experiences. So my parting piece of advice is, don't wait until you have arrived. Don't wait until you've arrived, because guess what? And this is a side note, so you may hold me accountable, but I'm getting ready to write a book about being a parent, being a mom. And guess what? I have not arrived yet. I am not the perfect mother yet. No, just kidding. That's never going to happen.
Oh,
however,
be around when that happens.
However, I want to be able to share what I have learned and the experiences that I've had with my kids from the time that I wasn't, or I didn't see myself as a great mother, to working on becoming the best mother I can be. So with that being said, I'm not going to wait until my kids graduate high school or college, or, we have grandchildren. I'm going to start that process now, because with the self-help book, not only will you help others, but you are going to help yourself in the midst of writing it. So do not wait until you have arrived. If you have considered writing a book and you want to go that self-help route, let us be the ones to help you. As writers therapists, We will be there to help you every step of the way. And like Darren always talks about, when you are writing, just finish your thoughts, get it lined up, send it to us, and let us help you create the best self-help book possible.
That was good.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Okay. That is love language all the way.
All right, guys. Look, I don't know if there's any more self-help in me. Maybe I need to go read Ed Rush's book.
I'm telling y'all.
It's been fun. Yes. And we will see y'all next week. I am Dr. Charli, the book mama.
And I'm Stephanie Palmer, the grammar queen.
Bye.